Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse, and tonight I want to welcome Ryan Gavalier from Ryan's Vinyl Destination to the show. Today we're going to look at the 1986 Cheap Trick album, The Doctor, right after this. Ryan Gavalier, how are you? Nice to see you. I feel like I haven't seen you or talked to you in a while. I mean, I've texted you, but,
Yeah,
I feel like I haven't seen you.
Probably since Queen. Yeah.
Probably since Queen.
Doing really well, though. How you doing, Grant?
Just got back from Atlanta, got back from Athens, hanging out with Todd Evans. What can I say? It was a good time.
Definitely.
But tonight, we're going to talk about Cheap Trick in our ongoing series on, tonight we're talking about The Doctor from 1986, which, in my mind, that album was always really a tough listen for me because that's where I thought everything really went to hell, so to speak. But The Doctor is the 9th studio album by Cheap Trick, released in 1986. Produced by Tony Platt, it reached 115 on the Billboard Top 200 chart. This is the album where Epic started to come in and pressure the band to produce material that was more commercial. Because, Standing on the Edge was kind of a hit. So that was like their first top 40 hit since like 1982.
Yeah.
And of course, as we know, Standing on the Edge, you're supposed to have Jack Douglas back, which we did to some degree. Mm-hmm. And they were supposed to go back to their roots and make an album like the first album. Of course, Jack got pulled out. The whole Yoko Ono legal thing. So that pulled him out, and they brought Tony Platt in. So he totally changed the sound of the record, used keyboards, drum machines. We already followed that one before. Well, for some reason, I don't know what the reason is, but they got Tony Platt back. And we're using drum machines, computers, synthesizers. Yeah. So it's kind of like Standing on the Edge Part 2, only on steroids. This is the way I kind of look at it. But the record only sold like 88,000 copies and only peaked at 115 on the US Billboard chart. So it only had one single, It's Only Love, released in 1986. Kiss Me Red, though, was also released as a single, but it only came out in the Netherlands. The reviews for this album, Ryan, pretty dismal. All Music gave it 1 star. Rolling Stone gave it 2 stars.
Yeah. It did get some positive reviews, though. Billboard gave it a positive review. Cashbox, Fort Lauderdale News, couple, but mostly pretty bad.
I think we'll turn it over to you first. What is your thoughts on this record? I mean, like I said, this album's pretty, I don't know. This is probably thought of as probably the worst Cheap Trick album, I'm going to assume. But I don't know. Let's see what we think, because don't forget, this came out in 86. There's been a lot of time that's passed. And to be honest, Ryan, I don't pull this album out very often to listen to. So diving back into it, I'm kind of being more, it's almost like being reintroduced to it to some degree. So what is your whole thoughts on this record, and what's your rating and blah, blah, blah? You know how we do it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is actually an album that I really had never spent much time with at all.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't really feel a need to, but I have to say I don't hate it.
Okay.
I also, even at this point, don't think it's the worst Cheap Trick album. I mean, it's not one of their best, but I think it's got some pretty decent songs on it. I think there is some really bad stuff on it too, and there's also some really bad production choices. But I think there's also some really cool production choices on this album as well, specifically in a lot of the poppier songs, which I think are quite interesting. So I made a list as I was listening to the album a few times of songs that I found to be good, and then songs that are bad, and then everything else is somewhere in the middle, like not either or. But songs I said that were good are It's Up to You, Are You Lonely Tonight, Kiss Me Red, Take Me to the Top, and It's Only Love.
Holy crap, Ryan, that's a lot more than I think I was able to pull out.
Bad songs I said were The Doctor and Good Girls Go to Heaven.
I have to agree with you there, yes.
And then everything else, like Rear View Mirror, Romance, Manipulator, stuff like that. I just think Name of the Game, I think it's middle of the road. It's like decent stuff, but I want to focus more on the goods and the bads and the stuff that's in the middle, honestly, because all Cheap Trick albums after a point had stuff that was at least in the middle.
Right.
So I think for me, the songs on this album where it really struggles are actually the more rocking songs. For instance, Good Girls Go to Heaven. And like Name of the Game is kind of a bit more rocking. River Mirror Romance kind of is, but I think the main one I'm thinking of really is Good Girls Go to Heaven. And I think that the reason for that is that the production choices on the album sound extremely dated on the more rocking songs, especially when we have heard the big guitar sounds of Rick Nielsen on previous albums and the big bass sound of Tom Peterson, the great drum sound of Bunny. On this, on the rocking songs, at least, actually on any of the albums, any of the songs, we don't get that. But it sounds especially bad on the rock songs because they are pretty straightforward hard rock songs that should sound a little ballsier, but they're a bit muffled. They're a bit flat. They're too tame. There's no real separation of the instruments and stuff. It's just kind of a mucky mess. But where I do think the album is strong is on the poppier songs, the songs that do have heavier synths, etc. Because I actually think the synths bring a life to this album that if they weren't there and we see on songs where they aren't real heavy, it sounds dead and it sounds boring. But the synths, there's some interesting synth lines throughout, and they also have big, nice, bright sound that I do think brings some interesting stuff. For example, I think my favorite song on this album is Take Me to the Top, which is kind of like, it's a really strange song because it is just kind of like a synth poppy type song, but it has like a kind of like, it almost feels a little slowed down and almost kind of trippy, almost like a kind of dream poppy type thing at times on it, especially once Robin comes in vocally, because he is doing kind of a like gentle, kind of breathy vocal performance during the verses, whereas the chorus of the song does become more of like a generic pop chorus, but it's still good. But I think the song overall has a weird thing, and it also kind of reminds me a little bit of a song that I really love by Duran Duran's Skin Trade. I think that kind of like slowed down, kind of majestic synth beat kind of reminds me of that.
Well, it's of that same era.
Yes, that's an instant positive because I love that song. That's probably my favorite Duran Duran song. But
just to add to what you were saying, I wrote that Take Me to the Top. I kind of thought that the verses were kind of lackluster, but I think the chorus on this song is killer.
Nice.
I mean, if it had like different production, I think we could have brought out a lot more in it. Like I said, this whole album, the production kills it for me,
That's fair. Yeah, and I think we're a little switched on that song because I actually like the verses more than the chorus, but I think
I thought the chorus is awesome.
It's a good chorus. I just think that the verse is something that's really interesting to hear
Mm-hmm.
Robin doing. It's not something we see all the time, so I think that's pretty cool.
Okay.
And Kiss Me Red also, I mean, I think we get a fantastic Robin vocal performance on that song. He's hitting some really great high notes on here. It's catchy as all hell. There's good synths on it, etc. Are You Lonely Tonight's cool because it is a mix of like kind of synth poppy, but with kind of like a Roy Orbison type of feel in some ways, and some of the vocals and the melody and stuff. So that's a pretty cool track. I think It's Up to You is just really catchy. It's a great opener on the album. It's got a really catchy chorus, especially. And then I get why It's Only Love is the single or one of the singles because it's really a catchy song. I think it's well done. But like I said, Good Girls Go to Heaven. I think the lyrics are so stupid on that song, honestly. Like I think it would make a lot of hair metal musicians cringe. And
Mm-hmm.
that's saying something but yeah, I think that song's pretty shit. I don't like the lyrics, I don't like the title, I don't like um the production and just the song as
Mm-hmm.
a whole. I think it just sucks. And basically, same for me with the Doctor. It's frantic, it's annoying, it's stupid. The production sounds so dated on it. Like, I think some of the synthy stuff could be cool, but it's just so damn fast. And it's like, I don't know. It gives me anxiety. It's so annoying.
It gives me anxiety. It does. This whole record gives me a lot of anxiety. Yeah.
That's totally fair. Yeah, and so I mean, I'm gonna keep it pretty short just
Yeah.
because this isn't heaven tonight. Like, I'm
No.
totally aware of that. Like, I like this album, even though I do think there is some really bad moments. I think
Mm-hmm.
that honestly, we kind of get the Cheap Trick's take on like mid 80s cars. Like, we kind of get that, like their Heartbreak City type of thing. It's not as good, but like I think we kind of at times do hear very carsy or Heartbeat City, by the way. But we do get these very synthy songs,
Mm-hmm.
catchy, and I think that yeah, if I'm gonna give it a rating,
Mm-hmm. Let's
I'm
do out
gonna
of 10. Do it out of 10.
it may be contrarian, but I'm going to give the album a 6 out of 10.
All right.
I think it's perfectly competent with some mistakes along the way, some
Okay.
really bad production, but also some really cool production too. And I think there's actually songs on this album, which next one we'll be talking about not quite as much. But yeah, on this one we do get songs though.
We do get songs. Uh, you guys mentioned Cheap Trick meets the Cars. I almost hear on the Doctor Cheap Trick meets Devo Shout album to me.
That's interesting.
If you
Nice.
listen to Shout, that's one of those records that has all the 80s gimmickry. But of course it's Devo though, so it's a little bit more easier to handle because you expect something like that out of Devo. You don't expect
Mhm.
it out of Cheap Trick. I mean, this compared to Standing on the Edge, this just takes all the bad things about Standing on the Edge and multiplies it. The way I look at it. But the thing about this record is that they're still writing the songs. You know, it's not like, Lap of Luxury where, they have outside writers. It got to that point where I know we're not on that record yet, but that album, it got to the point where Epic thought, well, Cheap Trick's not really delivering, so we better get some outside writers. So this, they still have, other than what? What was the one song other than Kiss Me Red, which is a Billy Steinberg, Tom Kelly song, which is okay. Uh, but yeah, the one song that really makes me think of Devo is It's Up to You, which starts out the record. It's very catchy chorus, but my God, it sounds just like something off a Shout. Production kills it. It would have fit on All Shook Up had George Martin produced it. Because a lot of this record, Ryan, I think there's good songs in here somewhere. We've been on the Contrarians report before. We've talked about, and I don't know if you were on that show, but we were talking about, can you really like songs where the production really is over the top and really kills it? I mean, can you really and still enjoy it if the song is good? Some people can do that. Me, I have a problem doing that because it's got to be a perfect blend of everything. So I can look at Heaven Tonight, In Color, the first album, Dream Police, everything's perfect. Great songs, good production. That's where I think Cheap Trick sounds like Cheap Trick. This record, I think there are good songs here, but they're somewhere buried in the mess. Rearview Mirror Romance, horrible drums. Again, we sound like Devo Shout. And I wrote in my notes, there might be a song in here somewhere. Might be a song. I'm not sure where it is. The Doctor, I think you summed that up pretty well. I put on here Duran Duran, question mark. It's got a catchy chorus, but crap production. Can hardly hear the guitars on it. Me personally, I think that the best song on this record is It's Only Love, and that's the last track on the record. Best song on the record. Hate the drums, hate the production, but man, dealing with the crap production on this record, it still is a great song. And if you notice on this record, a lot of these songs are Rick Nielsen and Robin Zander, which is pretty cool. Man, You Lipulator. Don't care for that at all. Good Girls Go to Heaven, Bad Girls Go Everywhere. Really? I don't like the title of it. Cheap Trick's not usually one of those bands that talk about girls and stuff, and then they get to the point where I don't know. I don't know. I just don't care for it. Take Me to the Top, Xander Nielsen. He's got a great chorus, but we're the opposite, I think it's got a great chorus, lackluster verses. I don't know. But you and I are going to look at Lap of Luxury on the next episode. I do want to say again that I think that there are songs here somewhere, but the production kills it. You gave it a 6. I would think at a 10. It's very mediocre. I'm not even sure if I'm going to, I think I could give it a 5 out of 10 and be comfortable with that. So if we calculate that average, we've got a 5.5 together, which I think's fair. The way I looked at this record, I always thought that this was the most hideous record in the catalog. But as I go forward and we review more stuff, I don't look at it in the same way anymore. I think a lot of people like The Doctor, even though it failed, it didn't sell. I think it's going to do better than the next album we're going to look at. But we haven't done that yet. We're not there yet. So we'll see. Let's see. What did Rich say? It's a shame such a great rock and roll band like Cheap Trick was. Yeah, they were compromised. So much when the commercial intent didn't even reap rewards. Yep. The last song is definitely the best one here. I would agree. I would give it a 6, but take 1 off for production, so a 5. All right, Byron, you and I are on the same page. So yeah, there you go. I think we can wrap this up pretty early because it's, what can I say? It's a failure, but there are some good points on it. Do you have anything else to add, Ryan, before we wrap this one up?
I mean, I'll just say, I don't think it's an album I'll be going back to a whole lot. There might be a couple tracks on here that I'll put on again. I could see myself listening to that "Take Me to the Top" song because I think it's pretty cool, honestly. And there's a couple others I thought were pretty cool. I'll revisit, but is it going to be an album that's going to be in my rotation frequently? No, but I am glad that I revisited it, gave it a bit more of a chance than I had in the past because there is, I would say, a good album here, just not a great album.
There you go. All right, this is going to be a quick review, but hey, let's get these reviews in and out. We're like a machine. So I want to thank Ryan Gavalier for coming on. You can check out his channel, Ryan's Vinyl Destination. The link's below. And like I said, we are giving it a 5.5. So there you go. I want to thank everybody for coming on and making a comment. Please like, subscribe, and I want to wish Mr. Gavalier a good evening. Thank you, sir, for coming on.
Too.
Always fun. All right. Good night, everybody.